Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. It's good to see you. We have a bit of a project change up here coming along. We're still going to be working on the Gia as later on after these couple of videos, but I'm going to take a little break and move on to something a little different. I have a set of fenders from a 1965 BMW R60/2 that I'm going to be working on for a family friend. The bike's in really good it's not in great condition. He purchased the bike from a family that owned it, pretty much rolled it into the garage, and it sat there ever since they got it in about the 80s. He recently purchased it and has asked me to kind of help out with it. We're going to be doing some body work, potentially taking it all the way up through primer, potentially going all the way through to paint with whatever color he chooses. He's right now deciding between the factory black and potentially a dove gray, which was an option as well. Let me show you the pieces, show you kind of what we're working with, and we'll get moving from there. There's some really interesting, unique, at least to me, I haven't really done much motorcycle work, ways that they dealt with some of the issues in this bike. Let's get a look through. All right, so here's the fenders. I'm sure you're probably looking at these and being like, well, the more knowledge of you will know why. This is fenders for a motorcycle. Why are there 3 of them? Well, actually, on the R65-2, the rear fender here has a hinge on it, so it ends up sitting like this, kind of going over the entire rear wheel. And there is actually a seat on the rear fender for a passenger. The hinge on this fender, unfortunately, has broken off here. There is a replacement hinge, and the owner of this bike has already located one. So that will give us a bit of a fun piece to work on. On the rear piece, it's not going to be too crazy. There is just a spot welded section here, spot welded plate on here. But as you look underneath, you also can see this interesting little tunnel section right here. That's for the wiring, actually, for the bike. There's a tail light that would go sit here. And you can see the tunnel funnels underneath the fender and follows a little wiggle all the way along, and then comes out here under where the seat pan would be for the rear tail light and the license plate light. So really kind of a neat way to keep the wires hidden, but also safe from the tire and any muck and grime on the inside. These fenders do have some sort of undercoating, road tar, something or other on them that we're going to clean off. Here, one of the first things we're going to do is clean those off, take a look and see what's been going on. The eyelets for the bolts that you would use to loosen up the hinge section are a little stretched out and torn on the main piece of the rear fender, as well as the part of the hinge that is spot welded is sitting underneath another piece here. So we're going to have to kind of do a little more surgery on the front part to get this off, to get this hinge out and replaced, compared to the rear smaller section. And the front fender is not terrible. It's not quite perfectly set width-wise, so we'll have to work on making sure these end up being a good mirror image of each other, kind of straighten this area back out. You know, if there needs to be any indentations, make sure they're set correctly. It's not as dirty as this front one is. There are some dents and dings. There's a big dent here that we'll work on. You can see it better on this back side here. It's really lumpy. And on the front, it's not really there, so it makes me kind of wonder what's underneath that to hide that there. They're not in terrible shape, but they do require some work. There's some big denting here on the very rear section, some rust that we're going to deal with. But right now, we'll just work on disassembling the license plate bracket from the rear fender, getting the wiring out of the other part of the rear fender, and then just cleaning them up, give them a good clean, try and figure out exactly what we're working with here. So after cleaning these up just a little bit on the outside with the Goo Gone there, give them a little bit of a shine, you can really tell, especially on this fender here, that there's been a respray. I don't know how well it's going to pick up on the camera, but there's a clear lip here where the old paint used to be, and it's just been painted black on top, which leads me to believe that maybe on that front fender there's been some Bondo work when they did respray this. They did take off the light when they painted it. They didn't sand very well underneath it, but they didn't seem to, you can see it here, take the wiring out when they painted on the front part. Kind of left a crease in there. I guess it would have been under the seat, so it would have been hidden. But we'll work on cleaning this up a little bit, seeing what's underneath the paint here. What kind of story that tells us, how well of a job, how good of a job was done on it. But I'm gonna go ahead and get the wire wheel in here, try and clean up all this, whatever this is, road tar, undercoating mess. Get the bottoms cleaned up, and that'll give us a better idea of if there are any massive dents in here that we don't see on the other side, and keep on moving. So, as you can see here, there's some good plating around all the holes. Kind of strengthen those up so you don't pull through when you're tightening anything down. There's evidence of the initial paint and then the recoat with some primer on top of the black. Whatever that road tar undercoating was, it's coming right off, but it's just everywhere, all in these cracks and crevices. So I'm going to clean it up as best as I can without damaging anything. Come at this probably with a chisel. I'll try and chisel the rest of this away. It's just really, really gross. Clean the rest of this up, Then we can start looking at, where some of the damage is. There's some here, which again on this side you can't see it, but there's some obvious damage on the inside. So we'll need to clean up. We need to clean up out here, kind of see what's going on. Looks like there might be some starting of some crackage going on because there's some filler in there. So we'll come at that with the DA or the flap disc. Just kind of see what's going on. Maybe hit the whole thing with some 80 on the DA and just kind of clean it all up. But keep going forward on that. Alright, so we did some work on the first of the the first piece of the rear fender, the big piece here. We got a lot of the body damage out down here near the hinge. There's still some there, but it's a lot better. There was a little damage, not damage, but from where the shaping happened, there was a big crease in here that we were able to flatten out a little bit. What else did we get? There was some denting down here we cleaned up. Overall, though, this piece was in pretty good shape. Given all the Bondo that's on it, I can see there was some evidence of rust pitting here and there. This panel isn't perfectly flat, given all of the complex shape that it is and the rolled edge and everything. There's going to be some waves in it here and there. You can still see from the sanding, there's still some waviness in it. We may try and work a little bit of this out, but not a bunch of it. That kind of gives it the character that it had from the factory. Also, given all of the pieces spot welded into here, all up and down the fender, they're going to warp the panel a little too. And some of these dents, like this one here, is right in the middle of where the wire goes, and there's not really anything you can do to get to that. We'll clean it up though and make it look as good as we can. I believe the plan for this fender now, the rest of these fenders, once I get the body work done, is to take them off to get media blasted.